Promise y'all I can't keep doing this. I'm almost 40, and my age is starting to catch up with me a little bit. My blood pressure finally regulated. Got up, functioning off about like 4 hours, 15 minutes of sleep. Had to still go get my workout in because, I'm a psycho. Before I jump into this, that right there, you can see the timestamp on it. That was from the lightning round Discord last night. And you can call it a Craig Stradamus thing or whatever. I don't care. It happened the way that I was asking for it not to happen. But look, you take your dubs where you can get them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what matters. It's a W. Saying it again a week after what took place versus the Browns. And this is becoming a far too frequent occurrence. And I don't think it's good for any of our collective health. Now, pluralize that? I don't know. Whatever, man. English journalism major, and I'm having a brain fart right now. But look, in the grand scheme of things, Chargers get a W. And that's kind of sort of what matters the most at the end of all this. That said, though, I am your guy, Craig, a.k.a. Petty P, Zencrea. You know all of the names. Look, y'all have to bear with me. Again, I'm running on fumes, so if I'm not as sharp as I can be, then grant me some grace. At the end of the day, though, again, rubber met the road. Chargers come away with the W. 19-16 in overtime in a game that looked like no one wanted to win. And so far, from everything I've seen on TV, I haven't watched a bunch of it, just stuff that I listened to on the way to the gym and from. It's, of course, all about, the Broncos and Russell Wilson and the slide that they're on, Broncos country, let's slide, all that crap. But, of course, if they won, then it would have been a big to-do about them, too. We're used to all of that. It's like, whatever. But the general consensus here is that was a game that no one should have been subjected to because unless you were a Chargers fan, you're probably getting worn out. And hell, you were getting worn out anyway from a health standpoint by being a Chargers fan because I'm gonna be honest with you. It got to a point where I just wanted it to be over. And I was essentially just accepting the fact that game might end in a tie, and boy, would that have sucked. You talk about, like, the nastiest, like, plant-based aftertaste left in your mouth. Just gritty, nasty, disgusting, unseasoned. Yo. Okay, come, look. Let me pull it together. Let's talk about the particulars here. There's going to be the good, the bad, and the WTF, because all apply here. Let's start with the good, shall we? Let's kick it off with the defense, of course. Now, there are two sides to this story. First being what you saw in the first half, and then the latter portion of the game. And there's a name that will come up here. We're just not going to do it now because that falls into like the other two categories, ironically enough. But look, man, defense pulled it together in the second half. They tightened up, and whatever was going on in the first half, collectively, they figured out. Russell Wilson started the game like 10 for 10. It was disgusting. And the Chargers have this thing where they just love being bad teams get right game. And it felt like it was happening again. You watched an anemic offense for 5 games, or however many they've played thus far to this point in the season, just come out and look, I'm not going to say super sharp, but Russ was dinking and dunking, and he caught the Chargers in some busted coverages, and he made them pay for it. But in the second half, they locked it down. And shout out to the interior defensive line, Sebastian Joseph Day, who came up a little gimpy a couple times, and Austin Johnson played their behinds off, and Tito Abonia getting pressure on the interior and helping the stuff to run. It was fantastic. And look, I said this on Twitter last night. The Broncos, I'm gonna report y'all for cheating, man. How dare you? How dare you bench Melvin Gordon? We needed that. That was all I asked for. I wanted as much Melvin as possible, and they literally gave us the bare minimum. That can't be that can't be okay, right? There has to be some sort of penalty in regards to that. I think a fine should be levied, but I digress. Khalil Mack. I'm gonna reiterate this, my man. If I were starving and I had one last Ritz cracker left, it'd be all yours, man. That's how much I love you. And that is how much I honor your presence on this team, because if it were not for you, from a pass rush perspective, I don't know what the Chargers would do. They were able to manufacture pressure in some other ways last night, which was awesome to see, but Khalil is the straw that's stirring the drink right now. Without Joey, it's kind of a one-man band. And I just need him to hold up as long as he can, get that man as much rest, treatment, and recovery until Joey eventually comes back, and that's still far off into the horizon. I don't know exactly how many weeks Joey has before he gets back. It's at least another 5-6 weeks, maybe more, whatever. But Khalil, man, you are the guy. And next up, speaking of guys, Drew Tranquil with a gritty performance. Just an animal. We haven't seen Drew like this since maybe his rookie year, or what was it, year 1 or year 2? It escapes me right now. But the pressure that he was getting on the interior and blitzing, spying Russell Wilson. Like, there's that one play, I don't remember if it was a third down or not, where like he was spying Russ and he clicked and closed like a bat out of hell. Literally shot out of a cannon. I didn't even see him until he burst out at Russ. It was wild. But Drew, yo, all props to you. Especially since Kazir White is playing very well in Philadelphia. So this made me feel a little bit better about that, because every time I see Philly win another game and I look at the defensive performances and Kazir is a standout, I get a little sad inside. But this makes me feel a tad bit better. Keep it going, my man. And of course the special teams, yo, Mr. Hopkins. Again, I know what I said about not wanting it to come down, but you made me eat my words. I appreciate you. I also was talking about how and I've been saying this for weeks, he's been pulling the majority of his kicks to the left. Almost every single one. To the left, to the left. Everything he kicks for the last month and a half, to the left. Shout out Beyonce. But he made it happen on one leg. You got to appreciate that. Being able to gut through it. You've got, who is it? JK out there handling kickoffs because Hopkins had to be saved for field goals. And JK, good job, man. Now, I saw him warming up in the event that he had to kick field goals, and it looked disgusting. Like, super cringy. And it just felt like, oh, if it comes down to this, we're screwed. But luckily, didn't have to. We didn't need to experience that. And Mr. Hopkins, I believe he is from Austin, Texas, if I'm not mistaken. So right around my way. Again, man, salutes to you for getting it done. Vato. Of course, we know there's another side to this, but we're going to stick to you, my man. Good job coming in the game cold in the second half and handling your business. It's not a coincidence that he entered the game and then suddenly defensively you didn't see a lot of those busted coverages and things. Like, he was playing his behind off. He was playing like a guy who's been waiting on his opportunity again. After seeing him like not at all last week, I think only just on special teams, Michael Davis was ready and raring to go, and he performed quite admirably. after coming in for a gentleman who we will get to shortly. And then the other side of good is luck. And what is luck? What was that saying again? It's when preparation meets opportunity. There's another one too. It's like the residue of whatever. Again, like I told y'all, it's early. I'm tired as hell. My brain, I haven't even had my coffee yet. It's a reminder. I'm gonna go through probably have way more caffeine today than I ought to, but that's like a daily thing. But I might be pushing it today. I have to be careful. So next, the bad, because we got to get to it. First of all, my blood pressure and sleeping patterns, all screwed. That's the bad. Thanks, Chargers. Outside of that, though, where it's on the field related, the O-line. Now, we got to call it down the middle. They're dealing with injuries. We already know about Rashawn Slater being out. It's not news. Corey Linsley being sick and then being a scratch before the game literally made my heart sink into my stomach. Will Clapp then getting injured during the game and having Brendan Hymas come in and looking like a complete deer in headlights and holding it down until Clapp got back. Just thank God that wasn't completely catastrophic. It had the makings of just going downhill fast. But I did notice that the Broncos were getting pressure on Herbert early. They were hitting him, knocking him down, and I just felt like it was going to be a long night for him. I did not foresee 57 passing attempts, but that will lead me into one of my points here coming up in a bit. Zion Johnson, the rookie had a rough game, but we just got to be honest. He was going up against a stud. Was that DJ Jones, if name serves correctly, homie that was with San Fran that came over to Denver, who was an off-season target that I wanted the Chargers to take a look at. That was your real welcome to the NFL game. He was giving Zion all sorts of issues in regards to getting underneath him and forcing Zion off of leverage and causing him to have to hold, 3 holding penalties. It was rough for the kid, but I mean, he battled through it. He had some good reps, but of course, whenever there are going to be penalties called on you, multiple penalties, that's what everyone's going to remember. You could have like 3 or 4 bad snaps and 30 something other amazing ones. It's the 3 or 4 that you didn't do well on that are going to stand out as an offensive lineman. That's just how that world works. No, I'm not going to do that yet. The wide receiving core. Y'all ready? You ready to be honest now? I've only been saying this for a few years, but I know how everyone feels about it. It's not going to change anything. You got to get out of your feelings about it. The Chargers do not have a great wide receiver unit. They just don't. Without Keenan Allen, everything goes to crap. And that's not a good thing, because what it does is it exposes your lack of depth in that room. You're paying a guy $20 million who is not a wide receiver one. Now, y'all keep trying to make Mike Williams. I saw that talk last week, by the way. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. Okay. What do you measure that by? What's your barometer for that? Because to me, a guy that can't consistently create separation and disappears for games at a time, and then has like a few blow-up games where a lot of his catches come down to contested joints or busted coverages, is not a top 5 wide receiver to me. You got to stop looking at things with powder blue glasses on sometimes. You just got to be honest. It's okay to be honest. Just be real about it. He's not that. Before we went to that game, I wasn't the only one that said it. We knew what that was going to look like with Patrick Surtain draped over him the entire game. Essentially took him out of the game altogether. And Joe Lombardi, I got a problem with you on this, man, because you aren't doing very much to scheme who, for the time being, is your wide receiver one open at all. You're not doing very much to help him out. If the plan is to just have him line up at X and just try to beat an elite cornerback off the line and create separation, which he's probably one of the worst in the NFL at doing. If that's your game plan, then great. You are just you've just resolved to essentially have him not be a factor in the game, and I guess that means you're looking to other people. Donald Parham had a couple of good catches. Gerald Everett, some up and down stuff. And I got to do it. It pains me to do it. But again, got to be fair and balanced. Justin Herbert did not have a good game. He didn't have it going from the very outset. He was sailing passes. You know it's bad when your 6'8" tight end is having to jump for balls when he's open. A lot of his stuff was sailing high over guys' heads, just super duper inaccurate. I have no idea. Was that third or fourth down? Was that just before overtime? Again, the timing of all of this escapes me. My brain is not functioning to that degree just yet. That corner route that was wide open to Gerald Everett, when you look at that from the end zone view or Justin Herbert's view, I have no clue what 10 was looking at. Not only was Everett open, but Horvath was open right in front of Herbert. And instead of taking the throw to either Everett, if you weren't confident in that, you could have just checked it right down underneath the Horvath and probably still gotten that first down. Instead, he holds the ball, retreats, and then circles back to the right and then throws it to Horvath late. I don't understand. He literally glitched in real time. But just on the whole, not a great day for 10. He didn't have the best protection. I don't know if that was getting to him a little bit. He seemed very hesitant to run. Of course, still recovering from the rib injury. Understandable. But man, some of that decision making, no bueno. The pick that he threw into essentially triple coverage, that's not a normal Herbert decision. It was just off. And I'm glad the team was able to pull out a win outside of that, because it wasn't a good performance whatsoever. 57 attempts, no touchdowns, 1 pick. Oh boy, I would have never imagined that stat line. And what is that, an NFL record? Because of course he's been setting records for the past 2 years, but this is not one that I would have associated with him. Most attempts without a touchdown in NFL history. That's crazy. All right, probably going to be a while before that bad boy is broken, but can't own all the good ones, I guess. Play calling. I alluded to this a little bit, but Joe Lombardi is super inconsistent. You have weeks like last versus the Browns, where the play calling was very good. And then you have weeks like this where it seems like his play sheet is essentially 11, 12 plays long, his scripted plays. And then after that, he's just throwing crap at the wall to see what sticks. And then there's just this remedial stuff that keeps happening, like those bubble screens. I said it early in the game. I'm like, okay, you're going to go to that well one too many times, and eventually something bad is going to happen. And they almost got Austin Eckler killed on one play because of it. And then there were instances where they were not just running the screens to Eckler, but wide receivers, of course, on smoke screens. And the crazy part is, like, the people that you're looking to provide blocking for you and your outside wide receivers or inside wide receivers is nuts to me. Why is Carter your lead blocker on any smoke or bubble screen? It was pretty pretty ridiculous if you ask me. And again, these are just my opinions. And I mean, hell, again, what do I know? I'm just saying it's wild times, wild times. Now trigger warning. This is the honesty and objectivity portion of the program. If those things upset you, you can go ahead and exit the video right now, because I know how some people like to view things like this. You call it negativity. I'll never understand that, but to each their own. So if you care not to hear the truth about some things, then I thank you for your time. Feel free to catch me on the next one. Let's start off easy. The running back situation. So I didn't even see when Josh Kelly got hurt, but when it became Austin Eckler and Austin Eckler and Sony Michel show, I was like, okay, so how tired is gonna be come the end of this game? Because I just couldn't foresee them giving Sony Michel more than like 10, 12 touches. I'm not sure how many he got. I haven't checked the box score stat lines, but bravo to him and the effort that he showed on some of those short yardage plays. But what we have to stop doing is the obvious. When they come out in that I form with Horvath and Sony Michel on 3rd and short, 2nd and short, whatever the hell, everybody knows what's coming. Everybody knows what's coming. And again, when you start going to the well that many times and that's your go-to, you're asking for bad things to happen, especially when your offensive line is beat up. Thankfully, it didn't end up coming back to haunt them in this game, but something else has to be worked out, because in those down and distances and situations, Lombardi has maybe like 2 plays, and I genuinely don't understand what's going on. As an offensive coordinator, you have to be better prepared than that. I don't know what pass interference or roughing the quarterback is anymore. Now, granted, there were a ton of penalties on both sides tonight. Some justified, others. That PI that got called for the Broncos, who was it? His name's escaping me, man. 56. Y'all know what I mean. He's getting blocked, comes off the block, ends up around Russell Wilson's waist as he's falling, and then slides down to his legs, and somehow that ends up being a roughing the passer call when there's literally nothing else he could have done. Like, he's unable to defy the laws of gravity. Physics wouldn't allow him to then, I assume, make his body levitate from a falling position upwards to grab Russell Wilson around his upper torso, and then I guess maybe gently bring him down to the ground. I don't know what the expectation was there, but fine, whatever. I'm over it. There were, for as many pass interference calls as they were against homeboy number 27, I don't even care to think of your name right now, but thank you. I owe you a Christmas gift, sir, because you single-handedly helped the Chargers win that game. There were some other really, really bad ones. Like, there was one in particular that they didn't call against Patrick Surtain. Like, look, I get it. He's locking Mike Will up. But if he's hugging him a full 2 seconds before the ball gets there, and I get the hand fighting thing, that's one thing. But if you literally can't raise one of your arms because it's being held against your body 2 seconds before the ball arrives, that's PI. I don't think there's any argument to be had there. There's no debate about it. Call it. Things are happening right in front of referees, and it's really weird when they're deciding to like swallow their whistles, and I'm tired of talking about it every week. All right, man. We got to do it. JC Jackson, man, look, I love you, dude. But right now you're a $16.5 million liability. Before it was the ankle thing. I know that you're still recovering from that. Week by week, it's getting better, apparently, or so you say. Your ankle has nothing to do with your brain. I will venture to say, and I don't think I'm off base by saying this. If he gets pulled earlier, or he just doesn't start, and there's no reason for him not to. So this is a hindsight thing completely. So don't y'all get in y'all's feelings about this and be like, well, Craig, that's ridiculous. We do realize that if he doesn't start this game, the Chargers probably win it in regulation, right? They probably do. He was responsible for 14 points. Was he not? Well, if not the full 14, one score for certain, and then another busted play, and I think there was a third. Again, y'all have to forgive me if memory is not serving me properly right now. I told y'all 4.5 or so hours of sleep, no coffee, is what it is. This is what y'all got right now. I'm gonna go back, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I don't know. I'm gonna rewatch every single J.C. Jackson snap from this game, because I want to see how many of these were with him lined up in press man, because I saw that a couple times. How many of these were in off coverage? How many times he was supposed to have a man pass off to him, or he was supposed to follow him through his zone and didn't do it, or he was supposed to pass someone off and didn't. Like it. I refuse to believe that this is a Derek Cox situation, because J.C. Jackson has too many years in the NFL of success playing at a high level. I do believe, like I said before, that he's a press man cover corner, and that's who he is. And he's in a new scheme. I understand he's still learning, but at the end of the day, you should absolutely take what someone does well and adjust your defense to help accentuate that. I don't believe in taking players and trying to force feed them into a scheme and not allowing them to do what they've done best. What's the point of signing him? You want to try to make him something he's not? He's not a zone corner. He doesn't seem to have the awareness for that. And he's also, again, recovering from an ankle injury. So off man coverage and having him to attempt to move around in short areas and burst and having to plant, cut, and go, he's having a difficult time with right now. But outside of the physical stuff, mentally, is just not working right now. He and Derwin's lack of communication last night was startling. And the fact that they pulled him, I'll give Brandon Staley props for that. Couldn't have been easy to do. The type of pressure to have an off-season acquisition like that you're paying that type of money to, not play the entire second half, I'm sure it didn't go over well with some of the other people who like to meddle in the building. But he did what he had to do. Vato comes in, and it was not a coincidence that in the second half, -9 yards net passing for the Broncos, which is ridiculous. And essentially what happened was they took one guy out. And, this should have gone into the good, because there are two sides to this. Brandon Staley, you get props for not only that, but for turning up the heat with Russell Wilson in the second half. Because the key to beating Russ is to make him beat you from the pocket, and you have to contain him. And they did a phenomenal job of that in the second half. Whether the interior defensive line was forcing him out of the pocket and the edge guys were containing him, forcing him back in, and just kind of corralling him and making him either take sacks or just gun the ball, in a receiver's area, but out of reach, out of bounds, whatever. He went BSB in the second half. A lot of the blitzes, it was a sight to see, and I'll give you props to that. But that's only half the story. And again, your $20 million wide receiver being rendered completely useless. At some point, guys, y'all are just going to have to start being honest about this, man. The Chargers need more in their wide receiving core. Is it going to happen this season? I don't know. They're probably just hoping and praying that Keenan comes back and fixes all of it. But the issue is not just not having Keenan Allen. It's the same issue they've been having for years. They don't have guys that are able to create on their own at the wide receiver position. It's scary. And the fact that they haven't realized that, whatever. All right, but let me finish this off, because this has gone long enough. I can't shoot Brandon Staley any more bail. They get the win, great. But the fourth down stuff is weird because there's no consistency to it, and it's not happening the way that it happened last year in an aggressive manner. It's super reactionary now. On top of that, the clock management is weird. It's entering Anthony Lynn territory. We don't want to be anywhere near that. I'm finding it very, very, very hard to continuously shoot Brandon Staley Bell, and it's getting to the point where I'm getting close to saying it. I don't want to do it yet because I want to hold on to this and ride this out as much as I possibly can. But I'm not seeing the type of improvement that I want to year over year from him. It's beyond alarming. I'm not going to dwell on this anymore because I got to go get my day started. But outside of this, hey guys, we got a W. That's great. You got the Seahawks coming up. Maybe you can go into the bye at 5-2. This was a win that they had to have in the division. You tied for first place with Kansas City Chiefs. Fantastic. Games like this, the Chargers typically blow. So great. Phenomenal. You got it. Cool. But again, be aware and be honest with yourself about everything that you saw in this game. Injuries aside, of course, that's a huge part of it. But all of the issues that we are continuously seeing that aren't being improved, some of that stuff is just going to be who the team is from a personnel standpoint. And some of these coaching decisions, whether it be offensive play calling or clock management, we just have to hope that they get better. That's all we can do at this point. But there's a weird trend developing in both of those areas. So whatever. But y'all, appreciate y'all for taking the time out. It's been a long one. Catch y'all throughout the week on the other platforms that you see me on. Chargers Chat Podcast, Lightning Round on YouTube. And until the next one, y'all take it easy. It's been me. It's been you. I'm out. Gone.